Okay, so Justin Cook, right? He sent me this new film which is premiering at Fright Fest, Pigeon Street Fright Fest in the UK. The film is called The Daemon. It is written and directed by Matt Devino and David Michael Yohe. It is produced by Matt Devino, David Michael Yohe, Tom Spittler, and Tyler Q Rosen. It's associate produced by Christopher Ryan Laughter, David Christopher Pitt, and Jeff Solano. Michael Crane handled the music, J.R. Krause cinematography, Johnny Martinez edits a piece, with Tyler Q Ronson taking care of production design. Scott Petty is art direction. Set decoration is James Meyer. Hair, makeup, special makeup, all of that jazz. We have Torna Diaz, Eric Fawcett, Gil Liberto, Rod Maxwell, Emma Sayate, and Tina Zinski. Our cast, right? So, let's do this. All right, so Elliot is played by Nick Searcy. Kathy is played by Sara Fletcher. We've got Elliot's son, Tom, played by Tyler Q Rosen. Kathy is actually his wife. A younger version of Elliot is played by Blake Ellis. We have then got Mark, who is Kathy's brother, played by Oscar Wilson. Mark's girlfriend is Jess, played by Adriana Isabel. We have got a younger version of Tom, played by Easton Mark Nagal. Manny, who is a client of Jess's, is played by, patient, we should probably say, played by Mario Daggett. Clint, who is Mark's assistant colleague. He works for Mark anyway. Clint is played by David McLean Jr. So yeah, that is it. We got a security guard played by Neil Arnott. That's the and Barbara is played by Olivia Day. Okay, that's the cast. Now the gist of the story is: haunted by the aftermath of his father's suicide, Tom abandons his wife and seeks refuge at the lakeside cottage where his father met his tragic end. There, his tormented memories from childhood resurface, all intricately connected to an ancient, mystifying force lurking beneath the lake's depths, driving Tom inexorably towards madness. As Tom's communication dwindles into eerie silence, Kathy, desperate to rescue her husband, enlists the help of her brother Mark, a struggling entrepreneur, and Mark's compassionate yet inexperienced wife, Jess. Wife, okay. A trauma and grief counsellor, unaware of the sinister malevolence seeping from the lake. Tom becomes a willing vessel for the same evil that claimed his parents and now threatens all who dare draw near. So, yeah, that's kind of, because I think from watching the film, right, it's clear that Tom, it seems he grew up by the lake, by the sea. That's where he grew up. So he knows what's he's got a sense of what's happening, right? And no, like, it seems his dad didn't believe him. So now he's like, right, it happened. I knew this would happen, type of thing, right? So we have that. Now, this is the feature directorial debut from Matt Devino and David Michael Yohe, which I do think that does seem very evident here. Now, I think with the film, we're getting a kind of a story that's meant to be showing. Now, I might be so off here, but it's meant to be showing like the effects of trauma, right? The effects of people not listening to you about said trauma, right? The impact of holding those things in. And you have to kind of face it and deal with it. You can't hide, because no matter where you hide, it will always find you. That seems to be kind of a big part of this. Obviously, we have the supernatural element added in, right? Which, that's interesting. But it's not necessarily always clear what's happening. Like in that synopsis, it says Jess is inexperienced. Now, as a viewer, we don't know how long she's worked as a trauma therapist. Like we have no clue. Right? We just see her with Manny, and it comes off real messy. Right? It just comes up in a situation of like, I don't know if anyone's doing this. Right? This clearly isn't the way to handle this communication. But what's happening here? You know what I mean? Like we have no clue. Okay, this is her first ever client. But even from a conversation with Mark later on, it kind of seems that she's had other clients. Like this isn't the first. So, you know what I mean? They're being like, oh, she's inexperienced. I mean, you make that clear. Because otherwise, people are just thinking, well, this is really bizarre. What the fuck? I think the interaction isn't necessarily helped by the There's Manny comes off as rather wooden, right? And I think that is another thing with the film. There are these interactions that do play very one-dimensional, right? They don't feel like natural interactions, conversations, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Which is like, there's a bit where, someone says to someone later on in the film, you get ready. I'm going to go look for signal. If I'm not back in a while, take a walk. And you was like, wait, what do you mean if you're not back? You'll just go. It was just a weird thing to say. You know what I mean? It's just like, yo, you know what I mean? I'm gonna go do this thing. I'll be back in a second, right? Or don't worry, we'll leave when I get back, right? Just if I'm not back in a while, it doesn't really make any sense, you know. And also, it's one of those things that gets said in a horror film, right? It is just one of those pat comments. So we have a lot of this, and I think we don't necessarily get the nuance in between emotions, right? Someone's either irritated, so it's shouting, right? Or it's fearful, and it's, I can't, right? There's nothing in between. Yeah, and I think this really would have benefited from a subtle touch in some of these interactions, you know, for it to really play out. Because you're just kind of, you know, sometimes you're like, wait, this couple talks to each other like this? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening here? This is bizarre. Now, some of the special effects, especially at the very end, are good. You know, like there's a bit with a character kind of falling. You'll know what I mean when you see it. That's not so great. But at the very end, that was very good. That was very good. We do get this weird scene where another character, something's happening to this person, and there's a bit where their top is ripped all the way up. Then another bit where it's only kind of, say, a quarter of the way ripped. Another where it's half ripped. And it's very bizarre because it's just like there's the reality of what's going on and this kind of ethereal vision. But it's only one vision. But within this vision, we're seeing these different kind of, you know, situations, which doesn't make any sense, right? It's the consistency sometimes within which gets a bit shaky. But this is, you know, the first film from our duo, right? It's their, they've both directed a number of short films and written short films, but this is the first feature. And yeah, I think we see that. You know, like a lot of the shots are pretty good, right? There are certain angles and things that are a bit weird, you know, and like sequences that don't necessarily make as much sense. Like at the very beginning with Tom's dad, right? When we're on the beach and we do the spinny round bit, right? Are we saying that he's taking a period of time? Because from then what happens, if it's only like a second, it doesn't really make any sense, right? And it's just certain things like that I think could have been ironed out a bit, like strengthened, because it seems, I might be wrong here, I might be completely off base, that possibly, you know, in the editing room, they're like, we could do with something else here. Let's just add music. Because a lot of it, right, is kind of buoyed by ominous music, right? Music to set the tone, where you just feel, we didn't really need that here. But I guess you would put it if you're like, this isn't quite the shot we need, or we kind of need something, but we can't go back and shoot it. Let's put some music, right, to let people know what's meant to be going down. So that's what it kind of comes across as, So I think if you are now, it's kind of, there's been, I mean, come on, man. There's like so many horrors, right? So many different horror films that I guess we could jump to. Man, I'm trying to think, like, what is something that we looked at recently that was a bit like, gosh, my mind's a bit blank, people. But I feel like, the ones. Like, we covered a lot of, kind of hokey horror films that don't always work, right? You can see what they're trying to do, but it doesn't always hit. Doesn't always hit like, oh, they wanted to say this. They wanted it to do this thing, I mean, boy, I guess stuff like, right, you could kind of just think of films, not necessarily horror films, but stuff like Inheritance, right? Sleeping Dogs. Yeah, those kind of flicks. If that's for you, you know what I mean? Then I think that this could work. Like Monolith, though I think Monolith is probably stronger. You know what I mean? But yeah, if that's your kind of film, then the Daemon, I think you can check it out. I think what will be really interesting is seeing what Matt and David do next, right? How they use this experience, as that learning curve to be like, okay, right, this is more, this is less. Like, this is how we get the most out of our actors. Because the actors were fine. But as I said, like, there's no in between. There was no nuance, and that's what we needed here. But yeah, look, it's premiering today on the 23rd at Fright Fest. I don't have any other release information, but if you see it playing near you, you might want to go check it out. The Daemon.